90 days ago, I began working directly with a smaller church. Even better, this is a church from Rochester, ranked by Barna as the #9 most post-Christian city in 2019. My team and I got to work. We followed 4 steps. I'm going to show you the exact results we got. Here's what happened. Now, the first thing that we did was I sat down with this church and emphasized our game plan. And here's what that looks like. We call this the Social Ministry Mountain. You can download this for yourself, and I highly encourage that you do so at prochurchtools.com/mountain, linked in the description. And this essentially plots out the different stages of social media impact that we want to achieve. Churches are in-person organizations. So how does what we do online affect in person? This is how we track it. Because yes, while it's true that there's no way to say, this many new followers equals this many baptisms or genuine commitments to Christ or new recurring givers in your church, social also isn't just a shot in the dark. There's a clear trajectory and path we want to follow. There are 4 stages on the Social Ministry Mountain. Like every church, we start at the bottom and we work our way up. Stage number 1 is called No Weeks Off, and this is the foundational rhythm needed for a successful social media ministry in your church. New content every week, indefinitely. Now notice this is not no days off, and that's because we're churches, not influencers. And this matters because influencers monetize and thus earn their living off of views and impressions. If I'm an influencer and I'm negotiating a brand deal, I'm going to point to how many posts I can dedicate to highlighting the brand's product and the average number of views and impressions this brand can expect to get from that. Now as a church, that isn't relevant to you, so we don't need to follow the same posting strategy. And this is also why some of the best social media advice for creators online often is not appropriate for churches, so be mindful of that. Now, as an aside, I should also say that my approach to social closely mirrors churches. I have never once done a brand deal or affiliate deal of any kind. Links in the description are not affiliate links giving me a kickback. I run a tech company full-time. We have software, Nucleus, our church website builder. We work one-on-one with churches at SocialSermons. That's how we make money as a business, which means I get to talk about whatever I want in my videos and hold nothing back, and I don't need to post every day either. Back to this smaller church that we were working with. Once we began our partnership together, we immediately climbed the first level on the Social Ministry Mountain. So long as we are going to partner together, we're going to send them new, fresh content every single week. And I cannot overemphasize how big of a deal just this on its own really is. Because in my experience, very few churches are even able to achieve the first level on the Social Ministry Mountain indefinitely. Because we all wear multiple hats in ministry, right? And what usually happens is maybe you watch a video like this, you get inspired, your church is active on social for a few weeks or months, but then your energy is needed elsewhere. You've got a bunch of responsibilities at church, right? And then social's momentum dies down, and we have to go back to the bottom of the Social Ministry Mountain because we cannot keep up the pace of No Weeks Off, which is why I cannot stress this enough. We don't even get a chance to see how our online efforts can impact our in-person experiences if we cannot keep this No Weeks Off rhythm up. But if you look at our Social Ministry Mountain diagram again, what does the timeline say for the first level of No Weeks Off? It says immediate, because you can make the decision at any point. Yes, we are going to be consistent. We are never going to take a week off. And look, it doesn't have to be much. For this church, all we did was review their sermon every single week. Someone on our team would watch it through in its entirety, no bots or AI, and we'd mark off 2 sections of about 30 to 90 seconds that we would then turn into vertical videos. Social sermons. We did this for 90 days and posted those to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Twitter. So just 2 posts per week for 90 days. And I'd say that this is the bare minimum that you'd want on social. 2 new posts per week. As for the results, here they are. Compared to the previous 90 days, followers growing 45% faster, engagement 204% higher, impressions increased 395%. And these are combined numbers across all platforms. Now, we were on to the next level on the Social Ministry Mountain, and you can see the title here, Viral for Me. And now that we were posting consistently for this church, the next thing we wanted to see was our first Viral for Me post. And that's any post we publish that reaches 10x the audience of a typical post for this church. And if you look at the spikes on this graph, you'll see this church's Viral for Me posts. That's what those spikes represent. Now, it's really important here to set proper expectations. If there's one thing that derails churches on social, it's first, not committing to the No Weeks Off publishing rhythm, which we just discussed. But second, it's unrealistic expectations. Yes, you can have a post that blows up and goes crazy and doubles your following overnight. We literally just saw this with a church last month. But it's not the likely outcome for your church. And if I'm being honest, most of the time, It's not the desirable outcome. The desirable outcome is slow and steady growth, which scales with what your church can actually handle. And to that end, here are the realistic expectations that you should set for your church for viral for me posts. The aim is 3 to 5% of your posts to be viral for me. So what that means is if you published 2 new posts per week, and we're talking reels here on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, because that's the content format most likely to be discovered by people beyond your existing audience. If you published 2 of those per week with the expectation that 3 to 5% of the posts are viral for me, which is a great percentage, you'd hope to see your first viral for me post within roughly the first 90 days. So after 3 months, we hope to have just one viral for me post in the bag. That would be a desirable outcome after 90 days. We'd say, yes, we're hitting the right checkpoints. We are committed to No Weeks Off. And within the first 90 days, we've got our first viral for me post that reached 10x the audience of an average post of ours. Now, I'm referring to an individual social platform here, not all of them combined. And the reason for this is we never know on which platform a church is going to excel on. I have found no way of predicting that. After 90 days, we do have a better feel of which platforms that your content is performing well on. Now, because viral for me posts are a percentage of your overall posts, the thought you might jump to is, okay, great, let's just publish more posts. And you'd be correct. The more content you publish, the greater the likelihood you have of viral for me posts. More at-bats, more chances of getting on base. With an important asterisk. The key is you have to maintain the quality of your content. And let me speak personally here. I have been doing this for 10 years. It's a big part of my job, and I still only publish 2 vertical videos per week. Similarly, for churches, unless you're doing additional content creation, I would not suggesting pulling more than 2 sermon clips from a weekly sermon. Some sermons have that content there, but most do not. And if you dilute your post quality just to get the volume up, in an effort to speed up the process, you might actually disqualify yourself from reaching people because the algorithms will just deem your content not relevant to folks. I see churches do this all the time. They get excited about social, which I love, but then they say stuff like, we're going to start posting more and our content quality is going to improve. It's like saying, I'm going to go on a diet and start running every day. Okay, love the passion and energy, maybe just do one of those things first and then add the second one once the first is fully integrated into your life. Otherwise, you're just increasing the likelihood you quit both because it's not realistic to start both at the same time. Now you might think, okay, Brady, but what about those 90 hard, intense fitness challenges? They demand a lot of people. People rise to the occasion. Right, for 90 days. That stuff isn't sustainable, which is the point. So it's not the rhythm that we want for social because after 90 days on social, we're just starting to lay the foundation for success online. If we quit now, we go all the way back down to the bottom of the social ministry mountain and we got to start all over again. Hey, look, what I'm saying here is not rocket science, but if social is a bit foreign to you, it might not be obvious. So think of it like church announcements. Are more announcements better? Well, no, there's a limit. If you spent 90 minutes sharing every church announcement possible, would more people come to things? Would more people pay attention? No. They would tune you out. By trying to do more, you'd end up sabotaging every single announcement. It's much better to focus on a few and make those very few potent on their own. And speaking of the social ministry mountain, let's move to the next stage now. We call this the 10x growth rate. This is the next goal on our horizon for this church, the 10x growth rate. This is growing followers by 4% each month. Pretty modest on its own, but when it compounds over the months and years, it translates to 10x growth over 5 years, meaning this church today at 1.7 thousand followers would jump to 17,000 followers in 5 years. That is dramatic growth, obviously, but it's not unrealistic for any church. You don't need to spend money boosting posts or on ads. You don't need to be a famous church with a famous pastor. So why don't more churches do this? Because it requires sustained effort and patience. It's just about showing up every week and being consistent. Look at the timeline for this level, 12 to 18 months. That's the average. It can be as short as 6 months. It can also take as long as 24 months. Platforms like Instagram tend to be faster. Platforms like YouTube tend to be slower. The results that you've seen so far for this church in Rochester in this video span just 90 days. Through those 90 days, this church's growth rate is at 1.5%, which is great. The goal is 4%. We've been at this with this church for 90 days, so we're well on our way. But what if nothing changed or improved and this growth rate stayed steady at 1.5%? Well, so long as we stayed consistent and committed to No Weeks Off, the results would still be dramatic because a 1.5% monthly growth rate translates to about 20% growth per year, which would mean growing 250% over 5 years. So if we kept that growth rate steady, 1,700 followers today becomes 4,250 followers in 5 years, more than 10,000 followers in 10 years. You might say, Brady, that takes time. Yeah, it takes time. But it's free. You're not renting a billboard. You're not paying for radio or TV time. You're not printing and distributing mailers. You're not even coming up with new content for your church. You're literally just taking your sermons and repurposing them for online. And the distribution is free. There's truly never been a better time to be doing social ministry, especially when you consider the major local component to distribution on social. Because people that are geographically close to your church are so much more likely to see your content than someone like me, even if they aren't followers of Jesus and I am. And this takes us to the summit of the Social Ministry Mountain, crossover events, where we can tangibly point to our online efforts translating to in-person. Here's what that looks like. One of our editors got this email from a church that we're working with a week ago. Quote, we've had people literally join our church or show up because they saw the art that you make. The art here is in reference to the sermon clips we're producing, like probably 4 or 5 families now, and they are sticking around. Why do we do all this? Why care about followers and reach and multipliers and percentages? Because of crossover events. Visitor cards saying they heard about the church on social first. Conversations in the lobby with new folks saying they followed online before visiting. Pastors being recognized in the community. Are you a pastor? You were on my Instagram feed this week. Here's another email I got from a church that we've been working with. And they sent this email last week. Quote, I wanted to share 2 things about the social media. First, I was shopping at Sam's and one of the workers came up to me. Hey, do you do ministry? Yes. Oh, you're coming up on my Instagram. I'm going to come check you out. And then, pastor goes on, I went out to eat after church with a few students and they started engaging with some other students who were there. They saw me and said, hey, I know who you are. You are the pastor of the church. You've been coming up on my gram. Remember when I talked about the local component of discovery algorithms these past few years? This is it. And again, why there's never been a better time to be doing social ministry. If you miss the good old days of social personally, I get it. But from a creator standpoint, from the perspective of your church, there's never been a better time. And to be clear, crossover events can happen at any point, but the closer we get to the 10x growth rate and the longer we sustain it, the more predictable and frequent they become. The church in Rochester that we highlighted earlier in the video, in one of the most challenging places to do ministry in America, is off to a great start. They're just coming out of those first 90 days, so we've got a ways to go. But even if we didn't improve from where we're at now, and we just stayed consistent, it's still gonna be transformative. To download the Social Ministry Mountain diagram for yourself, go to prochurchtools.com/mountain. It's free, just need your email address. This diagram is also really useful for sharing with your senior leadership, with the ones that maybe don't get social media. It can help them understand why we do what we do online. And you can also say, look, here we are, we're on this level, this is the next level we wanna get to, and here's where we eventually wanna get to, and here's how long we might expect it to take. If you do want to work with me directly, you can head to SocialSermons.com. We work with more than 150 churches each week. Capacity is full right now, but you're welcome to join the waiting list or book a call with me directly. We always try to keep a few float spots for churches that are a really good fit. So if that's you, I'd love to chat on a call and learn more about your church's social media needs and see if we can help. As for the next video you should watch, check out what every church should know about the YouTube algorithm. It's linked on the screen right now. And thanks as always for your time, attention, and trust. I'll talk to you next Tuesday.